Hello and welcome to Car Dealer Live. I'm James Bagger, I'm the founder of Car Dealer magazine, and today we're talking to the team from Heycar. I've got Karen Hilton, she's the Chief Commercial Officer, and Emma Rayner, who's the Account Director for Heycar. Hello to you both.
Hi, James.
Morning, James.
Nice to see you. Thanks ever so much for joining us. So today we're going to be talking about all things used cars, current market, what demand there is out there, and hearing a little bit about an exciting new competition that Heycar is launching. But let's start with that post-demand lockdown, Karen. We've been writing a lot about it this week, and recently that there's a number of people that think there's going to be quite a demand for new and used cars when dealers are allowed to open again on April the 12th. Do you buy into that? Have you seen any signs pointing towards that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're a data-driven organisation, so we're kind of always looking to see what the data's telling us. And I guess from a leading indicator point of view, we look at a couple of different areas. Interestingly, kind of traffic started to kind of peak literally the days after kind of Boris's plan was leaked into the press. So I think that gives you an initial indicator that people are kind of ready to kind of get out of their houses and start making some of the purchases that they've perhaps been putting off for a while. In the weeks since the plan's been announced, and we know what the 5-week stages are, last week we saw inquiries through dealerships up 15% versus the prior week. So again, it's kind of that next stage of gearing up. The other two data points that I find quite interesting are the number of people valuing their current car on site. So that was up sort of 12% last week. And if you think about the traditional buying process, if you currently own a vehicle, your first point of call is, well, how much is what I currently own worth? And then the second bit that I think is actually probably the biggest leading indicator is engagement with the finance tools that we've got on site. So if the Bank of England data is correct, I guess we're all kind of leaving the kind of COVID period with between 7,000 to 9,000 extra kind of pounds in savings bank account. What we've seen in the finance tool engagement is nearly 300% increase in people kind of playing with finance quotes, looking at what reflects my deposit, my term, etc. So I think from the data that we're seeing, there are definitely reasons for dealers to feel optimistic about the months ahead.
Those signs certainly point towards the fact that a lot of people are probably out there doing that research pre dealerships opening again. Emma, what are your dealers saying about this? I mean, the one thing that we seem to be hearing is that the test drive situation, can you, can't you take one at the moment, and most dealerships are not offering it, is causing a little bit of an issue when it comes to sales, especially for those people looking to change the types of vehicles that they're looking to buy or brands. What were the dealers that you deal with telling you?
Good question, James. So I think it's been a bit of a mixed bag, generally speaking, on the whole. But I mean, we're moving towards working in a way which is much more digital. And this is including people buying kind of cars fully online. And with that as well, what I've seen is that certainly with the clients that I speak to, there's a lot that you can do to overcome the apprehensions of not being able to do a real live test drive. So you've got things like the live video walkarounds that you can do with the vehicles to kind of show off the interior, exterior of the vehicle, and talk customers through kind of perhaps maybe what they do at the handover or test drive stage.
Yeah, these the FaceTime car sales seems to have really taken off, don't they, in the last year? And I love the fact that a lot of dealers have really turned their hands to using this technology to the best possible way that they can do it. Karen, can I turn to you and just ask you what you think will happen to used car sales as we go forward? Because there's apparently is some pent-up demand out there. We're certainly seeing it, but how long can that continue? Do you think it's going to be satisfied really quickly, or do you think it's going to continue on during this year? I mean, as you pointed out, a lot of people have got money in their bank accounts more than they had before. They're not going on holiday, are they? So will that translate into better used car sales as we go forward this year?
I think it's going to be a question of supply and demand. What we are seeing is when we went into this pandemic, kind of February kind of 2020, many dealers have told us that actually probably at that point it was slightly overstocked from a used car volume. And throughout this year, kind of dealers have been far more prudent in terms of stock holding that they carry. I think there are some other market factors at play. there haven't been the same level of registrations going out to rental companies because none of us have been going anywhere. So therefore that requirement for a hire car for the week-long holiday in Devon just hasn't been there. I think the other factor is the volume of people whose PCP lease agreements have been extended during the kind of COVID period has actually, put a bit of a deficit in the volume of cars coming back into the market. So I think what we really need to see is kind of this kind of pent-up demand come through kind of April, May, and I think that's really the time for dealers to kind of make hay while the sun shines. But hopefully with that bring kind of a swathe of part exchanges, and that kind of sweet spot that we certainly see for demand on Heycar is the 3-year-old cars, which are perfectly kind of end of lease cars. So I think once we get those kind of back into the market, kind of April, May, June, I think could be really good months. I guess the bit that we're all waiting to see is whether the Gatwick effect kind of happens in July and August, and whether actually we just all flock for warmer shores, having been kind of pent up for kind of 18 months, or actually whether people are kind of slightly more cautious this year and actually are perhaps pursuing a new car purchase because they're actually going to go and roam the UK and feel safer about it. I think that's the bit where none of us have a crystal ball.
Yeah, you make a very good point there, don't you? Because at the moment, we don't actually know whether holidays are going to be a thing or not. I mean, most people are probably assuming that they're not going to be able to get away, but you're right. There might be a sudden opening, and then suddenly the UK empties and everybody heads to Spain, and all that money they were going to spend on a car might not be there. So what do you think will happen to used car prices if you do look into that crystal ball? I mean, those 3-year-old cars are performing pretty well at the moment, aren't they?
I mean, absolutely. It's definitely where we see the kind of peak of demand. I mean, used car prices have held at kind of record highs for some time now. I guess the other bit that we don't yet know is what happens with kind of new car supply. I don't think we've yet really seen the effect of kind of factory shutdowns during COVID periods, because most of the OEMs actually brought quite a lot of stock into the country ahead of kind of the end of the year, just in case that kind of trade deal wasn't agreed. So I think if demand for used cars stays there, if we get a bit of supply back into the market, I think we can expect used car kind of values to hold, probably well into kind of Q2. But then I think we're in crystal ball territory, unfortunately.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of dealers looking forward to those prices remaining strong. I mean, it's remarkable how they have held up 11 consecutive months of pretty much price rises we reported yesterday. Emma, what are the dealers? How have they changed how they lean on you for help? I mean, I know that Heycar have done a lot to help dealers over the last few months. What have they been saying to you, and how have you been assisting them?
Great question, James. So over the past 12 months, I think we've all gotten used to working a little bit differently, and certainly from a more remote perspective. With regards to that, what I've certainly seen over the past 12 months is that at each communication touch point with my dealers, more often than not, the conversation often starts with a 10-minute check-in of asking, really, how are you? And whether we've been catching up on the latest outcome of Boris's announcement, exchanging recommendations on kind of how to spend your free time when we're stuck in the house, or simply fantasizing about post-lockdown life. What it's allowed me to do is get a little bit closer to the individuals within my client base. And with that, they've been able to open up to me more candidly about the challenges facing them and their businesses. And by getting this kind of extra unique insight as a basis of having kind of an increased relationship with them, it's allowed me to leverage Heycar to support them in more unique ways than ever before. So for instance, I've worked with dealers on kind of seeing how we can support them to get their response times up. And we know that the sweet spot is kind of getting back to people as quickly as possible in this new modern world. And also kind of encouraging partners where possible to surface even more of their offering online as well. So in the form of kind of additional videos, photographs, and that sort of thing.
We certainly saw it when we did our judging for the used car awards and our mystery shopping at the end of last year, how dealers had really taken on that way of contacting people via digital means, be it a text message or email. It's a huge change from when we did it in 2019. I think dealers have finally realised that if you contact them via remote means, you probably want to be contacted via remote means back. They don't really want you to pick up the phone. So it certainly has been interesting. Karen, can you tell me a little bit about this Lift the Cup competition? So I've heard a little bit about it, but perhaps you could tell me exactly how it's going to work.
Yeah, I think it's born out of some of the stuff that we've tried in the last kind of 12 months or so. I guess as a business, we subscribe to kind of the culture of doing things a bit differently. And we've, I guess over the last 12 months, we've, 2020's offered the opportunity to try things, fail fast, iterate quickly. We ran the free delivery campaign with our dealers from sort of November through to the end of February. And actually, it was incredibly successful. And we learned quite a lot from, I guess, talking to dealers about actually what's going to make the biggest impact on them right now. And actually, it was giving the kind of the tool and the control to the sales executives. So for consumers, being able to get a car delivered to their home in a COVID-safe way gives both kind of reassurance and convenience. For the sales executive's point of view, actually they've got kind of a bit of a conversion tool in their hands so that they know that they can get that car to that customer and it's not going to cost them any money because Heycar are going to pick up the bill. And actually we've seen dealers really, really embrace this. I think the longest free delivery claim we had was like 681 miles, wow. Which just goes to show kind of dealers getting really, I think, you guys covered it extensively, but, distance selling regulations and people kind of getting quite concerned about it. I think we've come through that in the last 12 months. And for me, kind of, I guess I started my career in kind of the retail environment. There's nothing more exciting than a 1st of March or a 1st of September, kind of seeing the deal board lit up, seeing the cars kind of prepped and ready to go, kind of seeing this kind of stressed out workshop foreman kind of trying to work out how you're going to get 50 cars PDI'd and ready to go in 48 hours. And it's quite sad that we don't get that this year and we've got to wait until the 12th of April. So the Lift the Cup is, I guess, part of the Heycar Extra programme. It's a reward programme we're putting in place for the people that are out there every day doing the hard work, consulting with customers and selling cars. And we want to kind of bring that kind of buzz and life back to the showroom, kind of in the run-up to the showroom's reopening on the 12th. So it's a reward programme for sales executives. If a Heycar customer converts into a sale, that sales executive gets to kind of claim their reward on the Heycar Extra site.
So how's that going to work? What sort of prizes are they going to be up for?
Emma, do you want to cover off prizes because you've been very closely involved?
Yes, please. I'd love to. So the prizes, they're going to fall broadly into 3 tiers. So in your first tier, you got things like coffee and takeaway vouchers. Second tier, sports and entertainment passes, right up to the 3rd tier being super exciting things like hotel getaways and entertainment packages, including new TVs. Prizes are generated completely at random, and you win a prize every time.
You think car sales executives would like McDonald's vouchers and something from Greg's, wouldn't you? So maybe you're gonna have to add those in. I'm sure they're gonna love it. What are the dealers saying to you? Have you spoken to any of them about it so far, and what have they been saying about it?
We have, James. So we sent out a teaser for the campaign last week. And the influx that we got of people wanting to kind of know a little bit more about what we were doing was just incredible. And I've been through this initiative with a handful of my partners now, and the feedback has been resoundingly positive. To echo what Karen said earlier, we really are here in the market to do something a little bit different. And by helping and supporting in the motivation of teams, I mean, over the past 12 months, quite often the teams in showrooms have been at skeleton levels, and they've been pushing really hard to keep the wheels turning. But from our perspective, as we're kind of progressing out of lockdown, things are starting to get much better. We wanted to see if we could kind of galvanise that energy a little bit further and support our dealer partners in giving more to the shop floor and helping with that extra little bit of motivation.
And so when does it start and how long does it run for?
So starting Thursday, the 11th of March, and it'll be running across March and April.
Super. Karen, what else is in the pipeline for Heycar? You've had a monumental rise over the last few years. I mean, what's next for you guys?
Yeah, it's bizarre. Kind of 2020 was our first full year as a business. It feels a lot longer than that, but I think everyone's 2020 feels a bit longer. In terms of what's coming up next for us, we're really, really pleased with the growth that we saw last year. So I guess from being kind of a new kid on the block at the start of the year, we kind of finished the year for most of our franchise partners being their kind of 2nd or 3rd biggest kind of inquiry provider. So rapid growth last year through various means. I I think 2021 will be kind of all about the, extending our reach as an innovation partner. And one of the things that we talk about a lot internally is, for us, we want to get to the point where we're helping dealers sell cars in their sleep. So ideally, a sales manager walks in on a Tuesday morning to discover that he or she has actually sold 4 cars on Heycar last night. And I think actually the backdrop of COVID has kind of opened dealers' eyes to this more. You've seen rapid acceleration in the use of tech within dealerships and their own kind of dealer group websites. I guess what we really want to do now is kind of take that and scale it across the marketplace.
So do you think this transition that we've seen to online sales during lockdowns and in the last year is something that is going to change this industry forever?
I think it was going to happen anyway. COVID just accelerated it. So I think it's been unwelcome at times, but it's given us a real shot in the arm. And I think we've seen more digital transformation in the last 12 months than we would have in 12 years had COVID not happened. I think we're still quite a long way away from everyone wanting to purchase their car online. And I think the biggest thing that we saw in the middle of last year was actually people still like going to a showroom. It's a lot of money to part with. They like the smell, the experience, the touch, the feel. You talked about test drives earlier on. For some people, if they're buying their 5th Golf in a row, actually a test drive is less important. But if you're buying a new car or a used car for a life change, then actually checking that you can put the buggy in the back, or checking that it actually kind of hits the A road at the speed that you want it to is really important. So I think online is here to stay. I think the increase in volume of disruptors will continue, but I think like dealers are here for the long run. I don't see the dealership kind of footprint changing rapidly in the next 10 years, but I think they are definitely more open to kind of moving away from the traditional kind of appointed showroom philosophy and into more of a kind of balanced 50-50 world of online versus showroom experience.
It'll certainly be exciting to see how it changes in the future. Huge thank you to you both for giving up your time and telling us all about the competition and the used car market. If people want to know more details, is there an email address or anything that people can give a shout to?
Absolutely. Get in touch at dealer@heycar.co.uk.
Super. Great stuff. Well, thank you ever so much for joining us, and I wish you the best of luck with it. Okay, so for more car dealer lives like this one, you can log on to cardealermagazine.co.uk and click on the live tab at the top of the page. I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us. Goodbye.